Welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique, the podcast series where we chat about shit with inspirational people from all walks of life. Today, we are joined by the wonderful and inspiring Leonie Murray. We hope you enjoy this conversation. Leonie, welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely thrilled to have you here. And I know we were just talking about before we started recording that this is kind of your first time sharing your experience. So welcome, thank you. And I'm sure many people will really benefit from you doing that.
Oh no, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk about it.
To begin with, would you mind just introducing yourself and perhaps kind of touching upon how you came to have a stoma?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Leonie and I'm 25 and I got my stoma when I was 20. So I've had it for 5 years now. I'm at that stage where I've accepted it. Like, it is what it is. I've got a stoma bag and I'm living my best life with it. So yeah, I'm not doing it or anything. But yeah, like, I've had a bit of a mixed story on my stoma. So I tell people different things for a long time, just out of protecting myself, because it is something that was so personal to me. And I was embarrassed for the longest of time. So, yeah, basically how I came about to have a stoma. When I was 16, I was masturbating with an object and it got stuck inside of me. And 16-year-old anxious little me didn't dare tell a soul in the world. I was so scared. Like, I didn't want to tell my mum and dad. I didn't want to tell my friends. I didn't want to tell anybody because I was just so terrified and scared. And the shame of it, like having to tell like your mum and dad you've been masturbating, or the hospital, or any doctors, like I just felt so ashamed. So I didn't. And I didn't tell anybody for 5 years. So I was walking around doing my daily life, going to work, pretending like nothing was wrong with me for 5 years. That was tough. But as I was walking around and doing my daily life, doing these things, working, etc., the object inside of me was, as I was walking, it was eroding my anal vaginal wall. So eventually it eroded it completely, and I've got a big hole now, like in my anal vaginal wall, which caused poo to come out of it, and I was having fecal discharge come out of my vagina, having to wear sanitary towels every day, still not telling anybody because I was that scared. So that was, that came with a lot of more shame because it was like hiding up the smell all the time, wearing to wear the sanitary towels. I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't cross my legs or, really do much, but I was just pretending like I'm fine, like, like just covering it all up because I was that scared. But I think it got to me being, so this happened when I was 16. Well, I just turned 16. It was almost 5 years. And when I was 20, it actually happened because I was at a birthday party for one of my friends and I couldn't get up. I couldn't move. Like, I was leaking and I was so scared that I was going to like stand up and everything was just going to like fall out of me. I was going to smell. Like, I couldn't get up off the sofa, and I spent all night just like still in one place, like so scared to like do anything. And my friend was like, oh, I really wish like, you could have like been more involved. And I just thought, my life is being ruined for this. I just need to go get it sorted out and go like I couldn't have any relationships with anybody because, like, yeah, I was just, my life was just, I had no quality of life basically. So I thought, I got a bit more mature. Obviously I was 20 by this point and was like, I need to sort this out no matter what. But when I went to the hospital, I went to the doctors first actually and said, I've got something inside of me. And he said, are you sure? Like, we get a lot of girls thinking they've got like tampons stuck inside of them and they don't, like, are you definitely sure? And I was like, I'm sure.
Pretty sure, yes.
And they stuck, they did an examination. They they were like, oh, quick, sent me up to A&E in Barnsley, and I was on my own. I was just about to go to work and I just had a quick doctor's appointment, so I didn't think it would be that serious. I thought, oh, they'll just take it out of me, like whatever. And I sat down in the little room where they had me, and I remember them saying to me like, oh, you're going to have a stoma, like, with the fecal discharge and stuff, like you're going to have a stoma, so it diverts the poo and it comes out of your belly and not down. And I replied, what's that? I didn't know what a stoma was. I've
Yeah.
never heard one before. Nobody that I knew. I was very naive and a 20-year-old living a best life. Like, I didn't know anybody who had a stoma, anything about it. So I'll never forget the look on the nurse's face, really, when, like, I said, "What's that?" Like, her face just kind of dropped and she was like, "Oh God," like this, she had to tell me, like, this little 20-year-old, like, that I had to have a stoma for it, like, the rest of my life. I had to have a support woman come in and talk to me about it and stuff. Yeah, that's how I kind of had a stoma. The next day I had one. So it
Oh,
was really,
Leonie, that must have been so scary to keep that inside, literally and figuratively, for 5 years and not. And I guess before you had the fecal discharge, were you experiencing other symptoms? Were you in pain? Like, was for the whole time?
yeah. Since like the minute,
Oh,
like, obviously I tried to get it out myself because you
yeah,
panic. Like, I wanted to get it out as soon as
yeah,
possible. I was even like trying to get a spoon up there, trying to like get it out.
yeah,
But no, like, it was not coming out. It was too far up for me. And yeah, I tried everything, and the pain was just, it was terrible. It was on my nerves, so it'd go from, like, I'd get pain in my vagina into my bum, down into my legs, the
oh,
cramps. Like, it was just unreal. And when I did actually get to the hospital, the first thing they said to me is like, "How are you alive? Like, you could have had toxic shock syndrome. You could have had
yeah,
sepsis. Like, you could have died." Like, I don't. They were like, "How are you okay?" I was like, "I don't know," but I am. Well as I could be. Do you know, I weren't like dying. I was just, in a very poorly position. But yeah, but since that, my trouble has been, how do you fill up a hole in your anal vaginal wall? Like, my surgeons
yeah.
are trying to figure that out. I've had a few surgeries where, well, this will be my 9th surgery that I'm currently waiting for to try and fix it in 5 years. So I'm now down at St Mark's Hospital in London, like the specialist hospital, and
We know them well.
yeah, and they're teaming up with St Thomas's Hospital,
Yeah,
because they've got a good plastic surgeon team over there. So I'm going to have like a plastic reconstructive surgery where they take the gracilis muscle out of my thigh, and they're going to try and use this muscle that's got a blood supply to fill up the hole. But they're also going to do a bowel pull through, give me a new stoma. It's like this really big, complex operation that I'm waiting for. So fingers crossed that goes all well. And
yeah.
then hopefully that it'll be fixed, and I'm still gonna have to have my stoma for the rest of my life. But if I get this hole fixed, it means the fecal leaking and all that will be completely stopped.
Are you still getting that even with your stoma?
Yeah, so my stoma's become disconnected somewhere, so it's not fully working. I
Right.
currently have a loop ileostomy, but it's tiny. It's only like 1.4 millimeters in size. It's really, really small, and I can't fit a bag around it really. So I get
Right.
leaks all the time. It's not really working for me very well. So as part of that operation, I'm having a new end ileostomy put on as well. So yeah, because it's become disconnected, I'm still getting a bit of the fecal. It's not as bad as it were because my stoma is just like diverting it, but
Some of
there
it,
is still
yeah.
that some comes down. So yeah, I'm just waiting on that surgery really, which is taking forever with all the NHS strikes and stuff. But
Yeah. I just wanted to touch upon something before we kind of move on to. I've obviously got lots of things that I wanted to kind of ask you about this, but you mentioned being so scared to go to and embarrassed to go to the hospital to tell them. And actually, you mentioned St Mark's. We had Dr. Phil Tozer on the podcast. I don't know if you've spoken to him yet, and Dr. Kapil Sanan. And one of their main messages, it was all about kind of sex after surgery and things like that. And they said, we see people all the time come with things that are stuck inside of them, whether that's in their vagina or in their anal cavity. They were like, you would be so surprised at the frequency at which this happens. Do not be embarrassed to go to the hospital and get it removed, because a lot of people actually end up in this situation, and people feel isolated and scared like you did, and then kind of don't seek help. And yeah, I
yeah,
just hope that
I
message
think
gets out.
me too. I think like one of the main messages that I really want to like come across and say is that, I think there needs to be a wider message about female masturbation for people in school. I think there's such a big stigma around it. For males, it seems to be such a a topic where it's not as stigmatized, but for women it really is, and they do feel ashamed and embarrassed, and it's a big taboo. And if there were more education, research, and a bigger conversation about it, like I might have not felt as embarrassed and ashamed to go to the hospital. Like I could have had it out the next day and never had a stoma, never had my hole in my anal vaginal wall, never had all this pain and discomfort and surgeries. So, and a lot of that comes with self-blame as well then, because you blame yourself. Like I have a lot of people on Instagram, like I'm so grateful for that, like Instagram community and having people my age with a stoma and stuff, because it's really helped me accept it. But for a long time I didn't feel like I belonged in that group, because a lot of people have stomas for like IBD, Crohn's and colitis, and because I didn't, I couldn't really relate to their struggles. I felt a bit outcast from it. So I just wanted to really say that, like, if you do have a stoma for a reason that's not IBD, or like, I'm here. I'll support you with you, because I really did feel a bit a bit outcast from it all. And but I'm feeling a bit better about it now, and I just want the message to be like, it's okay, and female masturbation is not a taboo subject. Like everybody does it, and if you don't, then you should.
Hear, hear. I'd love to kind of touch upon that, I guess, trying to find your community, your kind of people to support you through this journey, especially never having known what a stoma was, and all of a sudden the next day you have one. Where did you turn to first? And then how did you kind of navigate not perhaps having the kind of traditional route to a stoma? And then what worked for you, I guess, in terms of getting that support system?
Yeah, so at first I was very anti-stoma. I was like, I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to know about it. When I actually had the stoma done, I couldn't look down at my stomach. It made me physically feel sick. I was like, I couldn't accept it at all. But it was actually, when I was in hospital, there was a lady at the side of me. Sorry. There's a lady at the side of me, and on the hospital ward, and she just had a stoma done, and she'd been in the hospital for about 8 weeks because she couldn't accept her stoma. And obviously the terms and conditions of you leaving the hospital is you've got to change it yourself, you've got to empty it yourself, you've got to be able to be self-sufficient with it. And she wouldn't even look at it, she wouldn't touch it, she wouldn't accept it, and she was about in her 70s. And I saw that, and I saw her in this hospital bed every day, not getting better, not wanting to, and it kind of like, so everything in me just switched, and I was like, no, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get better. I need to accept it, because I don't want to be in hospital forever. I need to, like, really move. So I went over to the lady and we started talking together, and I think we helped each other really, because I think her seeing me accept it at such a young age in my 20s, and like, I'm going to have this for the rest of my life. Like, she was like, well, if she can do it, then so can I. And I was helping her by being like, well, she was helping me by being like, not wanting to do it. It kind of made me, do you know what I mean? So,
pushed you forward.
Yeah, so that's what sparked me, like, accepting my stoma as such. But then after that, I think it was the Facebook groups, like the Colostomy UK support groups. I was in that for a little bit, because I still was very much, I didn't want to tell anybody about my stoma. I wanted it to be very private, and I just was going to live my normal life and nobody was going to know. And then I saw in the news that a boy called Seven Bridges had died after being bullied for having a stoma bag. And I worked in a primary school at the time, and it broke my heart to an extent I can't even tell you. Like, I just can't imagine anybody being bullied for having a stoma bag and then taking a life like that. It just, especially such a little boy, it just really broke my heart. So after that, I thought there needs to be something needs to be done where I can try and break this stigma. And I'd never seen on the like Instagram pages, I've never known there was such a big community. I'm from a small town in Barnsley, and I felt like I was the only girl in the world to have a stoma so young. So I started an Instagram and like started to post about Seven and post about like raising awareness and not being scared to show you have a stoma, and that it's okay to have, that like I poo in a bag in my stomach and that's fine. Like, I'm not ashamed of it and things. And after that, I realized, like, from Instagram how big of a community there is, and I can't, honestly, I actually can't put into words how much they've supported me. And even things like I didn't know about stoma powder, or I didn't know about ostomate spray, to make it what's it called, neutralizing spray, and all that, like things. There's little tips that have helped me so much along the way, like. And I think without knowing about all the ostomates like all over the world, like it would have made me feel a lot more isolated and on my own. So yeah.
I wonder if we can just go back to when you were in this hospital and all of a sudden they're telling you you're having a stoma and then you had one the next day. Now, obviously, you hadn't told your parents anything at this point.
No.
So were they then called to the hospital, and then did you have to have a conversation with them there, or how did that work for you?
So I was still in denial. I was at the hospital. They told me I needed a stoma and I was going to have to go for it within the next day or so. But they actually transferred me to a different hospital because, like, my local hospital didn't really know how to deal with it. So I had to go to one in a city in Sheffield. So the next day, I actually that evening I went home, and I just, something in me, when anything a bit traumatic happens, I just put it to the box at the back of my head and I try and figure out about it, and I try and I just kind of go into shutdown mode a bit. So that's what I did. I just went to bed and pretended nothing ever happened. And then the next morning I was meant to be in work, and I went up to my work where I was working and said to them, I'm going to have a stoma bag. And that's the first thing they said. Oh, have you told your mum? I was like, no, I haven't told her yet. And they was like, you need to go home and tell your mum right now. Like, you need to tell your parents. So I went home and I sat my mum down, and she was off work that day for some reason. And it was hard. It was a hard conversation to have with her because I think my mum just felt so guilty that I hadn't felt able to talk to her about it. She was like,
I understand that.
Why couldn't you come to me? Like, I would never have judged you. I've never have thought of you any different. So why couldn't you come and tell me? Like, so she felt guilty as well because she'd been like, oh, why do you never take the dogs for a walk? Why aren't you tidying your bedroom with all these years? Everything kind of made sense from that point. Like, oh, she's been in a lot of pain. She's been struggling. I can't believe she's had to go through this alone. So I think not only did his relationship get better from that point, because she finally understood everything, I think, yeah, she did feel a bit guilty. So she shouldn't have. Like, it wasn't her fault. It was just genuinely the stigma around it. Like, I think it's just a bigger conversation that needs to be had, really, about female masturbation and about being able to speak about these things. Like, I think the world's getting a bit better about mental health and stuff, and knowing that it's okay to talk about your thoughts, feelings and emotions. And I think the same needs to go about, other taboo subjects as well.
I couldn't agree more. I wonder if we can talk about mental health briefly, if you feel comfortable doing that. I'm imagining that this probably had quite a profound effect on your mental health. How did it affect you? B, how did you get through difficult times? And I guess C, how are you feeling now that you've kind of come out the other side of having a stoma, but obviously I know you still have other surgeries. So yeah, how's that journey been for you?
It was tough. I've actually always struggled with my mental health before this. Like, when I was 13 and I hit puberty, I think that's really when it started to start. And all I ever got told, oh, it's just your hormones, like, it's fine, you'll grow out of it. But I didn't. Like, it weren't just my hormones. And when I was 15, so a year previous to this, I actually took an overdose and tried to kill myself. I was really mentally not very well. I was getting bullied at school, and it was just not a very good time. So my mental health has always been a bit rocky. It's not really been the greatest. So after this happened, I think, yeah, it did take a toll on me. I just tried to cover it up. That's all I can really. Yeah, I was suffering so much inside, but I was pretending I was okay to everybody. And through therapy and talking about it with other people and stuff, like, I just went into this pretend mode, and it was like, yeah, I'm fine, everything's great, let's put this huge happy smile on, and that wasn't my actual reality. So I had to take a step back and really deal with them emotions and feelings and really process them at a later date, really, because I think at the time I was just so busy on surviving every day and getting through it that I think afterwards, when I did have a minute to think about it, I'd got the object out of me, had my stoma now, things were a little bit better. I kind of was like, whoa, that was a lot. Like, you know, I needed some time to process it. I had some therapy, and yeah, I think health trauma is a real thing as well, like medical trauma, like something like that happening to you so fast and so suddenly. Like I had 4 or 5 years of hell, and then I had a stoma bag like that, and then I had to wait a little bit, and then I had another operation, and then another one to try and fix me. So I actually had a really bad surgery as well, which really, since that, I've not been the same since. I had something called an omentectomy, where they took my omentum out of my stomach and they moved it down to my anal vaginal wall to try and use it to fill it up. Because you don't really need your omentum as such. It's kind of one of them things in your body that, like, it's there, but it doesn't. Yeah, it's just kind of there. But that all fell through and didn't work. And the way that my surgeons did it in Sheffield hasn't really. My surgeons in London don't really know why they did it like that, I'll just say. So it's kind of left me worse off. So they're trying to fix that now as well. And that surgery was traumatizing. I've never been in as much pain. I woke up and I had a catheter in, 3 draining tubes. I couldn't eat. My sense of taste and smell had completely gone. So it was all like I couldn't smell or taste anything without it like smelling like rotten eggs. It was like I didn't eat for 7 days straight, like not a thing. I was just like nil by mouth, like I couldn't move, I couldn't walk, and I was just in so much pain, bleeding out my stomach. Like it was just horrific. So after that surgery, I know we're talking about mental health, it does link back to it.
No. You talk about anything you want to talk about, honestly.
Thank you.
Found by me.
But yeah, so after that surgery, it was quite traumatic, and that really triggered my mental health. And since that, whenever I do come up to having a new surgery, or I'm going down to London really soon to have a consultation with a new plastic surgeon. So anytime like a surgery comes up or a consultation, that panic that I felt like after I woke up from my surgery, it all comes back. It's very triggering. It's very like, I feel like my mental health and surgery is very much linked. Like my health, I think. And there's not a lot that can be helped for it because it's very personal. It's very, it's not something that my therapist hears every day, you know. So sometimes there is things that I say that it's hard to relate to and offer advice for because, you know, she doesn't have the words to say because she's not, you know, a surgeon, or she's not like, you know, well versed in this sort of stuff. So yeah, it has been a struggle, but I think the right coping strategies, I'm really good now at putting them into place and getting a hot bath and doing self-care and doing my skincare, and I even do a journal. I start journaling every day, and yeah, just try and really look after myself in my mind and my body a bit more instead of just putting all that to the side and going down the spiral.
That sounds like you've put some really, really sensible and amazing mechanisms in place, and you should be really proud of that.
Thank you.
In terms of, obviously you said that your relationship with your mum actually improved after you shared this and you kind of were able to go on the rest of the journey together. What about your friendships? Because you mentioned that a friend was saying they wished you were more involved, obviously before they knew you were poorly at a particular party or whatever it might be. And obviously it's been very difficult for you to express exactly the lead up to the surgery and how that happened. What's that been like? Do your friends now know what's happening and have they been supportive?
Yeah, so for a long time, I actually spoke about this in therapy because I felt like the worst person in the world, because I had to lie to a lot of the people I loved around me because I was so embarrassed and so ashamed that I didn't want to tell anybody. And like when I started to have my stoma surgery and things were going, off, I had to start making excuses up, and I had to put something into place to tell people why I was having this surgery. So I actually asked my doctor and said, what can I tell people, because I don't want to tell them this, And he said, well, you do have a rectal vaginal fistula. That's what it's caused. So just tell people you've got a fistula if they ask. And, that's all you need to say. And that's all I have said, really. There has been some situations before that where I have had to lie to my friends and say different reasons. And that's something I've had to have a separate conversation about with them now after, and be like, I'm really sorry. It was just to protect myself. And it was just because I was so embarrassed and ashamed. And a lot of them has been really understanding of that. And,
Good.
they completely understood. I think my relationships with some friends has definitely changed since I had a stoma. Like, I can't drink alcohol anymore, which is not. I have a lot of conversations with other ostomates about this, and a lot of people can. Like, a lot of people can. I can't at all. It just, the hangovers. Last time I drank, I was in hospital and I got alcohol poisoning. Like, I can't drink, and I think that's kind of affected my relationships. Not having the same social life and not being able to go out. But the reason I have my stoma, everyone's been really accepting and understanding about it, which has been really nice to hear. And I think that response has made me more willing to open up more about it and want to talk about it, because there was a time where I wouldn't have dared do something like this. I would have been so ashamed and embarrassed. So I can see the self growth as well, which is nice.
Well, I'm so grateful and pleased that you have felt that you can come on here and share, and I know it's going to help a lot of people.
No,
It's interesting what you said about the alcohol side of things. A lot of people I've spoken to have said variations on this theme, but that sometimes your life puts you in a position where you can't necessarily do certain things. Like perhaps people with IBD don't feel comfortable going out when they don't know where the toilets are or something like that, or other people have given up alcohol and their friends still drink and they don't really know what to do when they're sober. And I think a lot of people have come to the realization, and it sounds like you're probably coming to it now as well, where if someone can't accept you for who you are, and you have a right to not drink alcohol and still be able to have a really functional, beautiful friendship. If that's not the case, then maybe those people were great for a time period, but maybe not for the future.
No, definitely. I've just got back into the dating world, and
How's that?
but I was talking to a guy recently, and we'd been chatting online and stuff. We were going to meet up on a date, and I thought, I'm going to tell him I have a stoma before I go on the date, because it's a good judge of character, and I don't want to go on the date and then really like him, and then he find out later and he changes things and I get upset or whatever. So I was like, I'm just going to put it out there and see how it went. And he just didn't reply. He opened it and just didn't respond to it. And things were going really well until that point. And a little thing inside of me I was upset for about 5 minutes. And then I had the exact same realization where it's like, well, if he can't accept me, it's just his loss. Like, I'm, if you can't accept that you have a colostomy bag, I think that just shows who you are as a person, really. Like, if someone else had a stoma bag and I'd never had one, it wouldn't affect me, like before I had it or anything. So I don't know. I think, that was another thing with boys and relationships. Having the confidence to have my bag out, or, get undressed in front of a boy or something and have my bag there, or wear some sexy lingerie, even though I can't really have sex anymore with the hole and everything. It's still not very good to do that. But, if I wanted to feel sexy, I never thought I could with a stoma. Like, I thought I'd have to wear like baggy, loose clothes all the time, or, but no, you don't. You can wear whatever you want with a stoma and do whatever you want. Like, I think having the community on Instagram again, I can't say it enough, like, has just really shown me what's possible with a stoma.
I love that so much. That's probably a really great place to end, but I just wanted to ask you one more question, which is, I guess, aside from the fact that you need to have another surgery, how is your general mental and I guess physical health now, and what are your kind of hopes moving forwards for the future for yourself and perhaps also for the community?
Yeah, so I think just in general in the future, I would like there to be a bigger conversation about female masturbation. As I've said, like, I think the stigma needs to go. I think it needs to be something where women don't feel ashamed to talk about. It's something that's we can talk about in everyday conversation without feeling that embarrassment or anything like that. And for myself, I'm hoping that I do have the confidence to keep talking about this, and I want to make a post on my Instagram about it and talk about it and open up and be accepting of this is how I got my stoma, and I don't have a reason to feel ashamed or embarrassed. Like, and I am part of the stoma community, IBD or not. So yeah, I think I'm getting there of accepting like my journey of how I got to here. So I think that's a good thing.
Leonie, I think you're incredibly brave, you're incredibly inspiring, and I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming on and talking about this. That,
Oh,
as
no,
I said, we
me.
know a lot of people have been through this and people don't talk about it. So giving other people the chance to feel connected and not by themselves is so, so important. So thank you.
Great. No, thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
It's been a pleasure. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Have you seen the new Ostique skins yet? Ostique skins are revolutionary ostomy pouch covers that were created to make the wearer feel confident, sexy and powerful in all of life's moments. From moments of intimacy to lounging by the pool, conquering a workout or simply heading out to lunch, skins have you covered. Even better, they're compatible with all major colostomy and ileostomy bags. Ostique skins are available in a range of colours and skin tones, and they're made from a revolutionary material that's completely waterproof, high quality, soft and comfortable. Skins are easy to use, even with reduced dexterity, and they work with both closed and drainable bags. Plus, skins are also environmentally friendly and vegan. There are 4 bundles available to buy now, and you can also purchase individual skins. Head to ostique.co.uk to find out more.